Hi everybody, Dr. Nick here. Just finished recording an episode of The Hospitality Spirit with Chris Contos. Chris Contos is an alumni of the DePaul School of Hospitality Leadership, and currently he's a hospitality tech account executive with Evention based in Brooklyn, New York. During our conversation, we talked about Evention. Chris gave some great advice for students on how to get involved in school. And also, for those individuals working in the hospitality industry, he provided some sound advice on how to make sure that your skills are relevant and continuously updated. I hope you enjoy this episode. Good afternoon, everybody. Dr. Nick Thomas here with the Hospitality Spirit. I am excited to be joined today by a School of Hospitality Leadership alum, Chris Contos. Chris Contos is a hospitality tech account executive based in Brooklyn, New York. He works for a company called Evention. Chris, it's great to have you on the podcast today.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me, Dr. Nick. Appreciate it.
So Chris, I'm really excited. We have had SHL alums on the program before. Looking at the fall schedule, we've got about half a dozen more scheduled to be on the podcast. It is always great to see the success that you've had transitioning into the hospitality industry from your career. And we'll get into that in a minute. But what I'd like to do is maybe just talk a little bit about what a hospitality tech account executive does at Evention and what Evention is.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, Evention's in a really exciting place right now with what we do within basically automating back-end accounting. Within the time it takes for an associate, whether it's managing cash at the hotel, doing the gratuity distribution for payroll, managing credit card reconciliation, or group billing, we're seeing right now automation is I think the key with the limited staffing we're seeing in this industry currently. We're able to view, I think, like a consulting project per each property we work with, the unique challenges that they have, and going through just the ways that we can solve them. We have numerous case studies that we've been able to build up over the last 15 years of the company. And since my time in 2016, we've just had a lot to offer to various different hotel brands across the country.
So, and then you, in terms of your role as a hospitality tech account executive, I mean, what does that entail in terms of a high level look at your job description?
Yeah, it's the building of relationships. It's the start of a cold call. It's a demo providing information about the product. It's taking you through everything from the proposals that we offer to each silo of our solutions to then, kicking off the project, handing it over with the implementation team, making sure that the project gets completed in a timely fashion, moving at the pace of the hotel, and then handing it to client success, working through the measures of any turnover that's occurring at the hotel, working through with new users, making sure they're trained, loving the software, and then building off of that referral basis. Like hospitality, it's the word of mouth. When a solution works, you want to make sure the word is out about what Evention can do. And I make sure that word is positive and spread throughout different hotel brands.
So you said you've been there for 4 years, and that makes me feel incredibly old because time has flown by. I mean, I remember having you as a student. I remember when you graduated. I even remember the conversation that you and I had about, hey, there's this company Evention that I think I might want to go work for. What do you think? I was actually riding in the back of a taxi cab going up State Street when you called me and we talked about it. So I remember the conversation very well. It's interesting because as of late, we've had a variety of guests on the podcast, some that upon graduating, they went the kind of traditional, I'm going to go work in a hotel, I'm going to go work in a restaurant. But we've also had guests that said, you know what, I'm going to go and work for one of the ancillary kind of peripheral companies that are designed to support those hotels and support those restaurants. And that's the decision that you made. And I'd like to kind of hear your thought process in, you knew you wanted to go into the hospitality and tourism industry, but you were pretty set on maybe I'm not going to go the traditional go work at a front desk, then maybe go over to housekeeping, or I'm going to start as a server and then work my way up to restaurant manager. You said directly, I'm going to go work for a Well, it's a tech company, it's an innovation company, it's an accounting company, somewhat of a different organization.
Yeah, there's there's certainly a lot of layers to that. How that I how I got into the role of evention. To really rewind it to start back from the beginning. It's been mostly food and beverage my whole life. That's how it got started in my family, with my great grandpa starting a diner in Watertown, Massachusetts. My grandpa operating a food service company out of Springfield, Mass. And then, cut to today, I'm in Plymouth, Michigan, growing up, and, working in food service, working at a few spots called Burger Spot, Papa Romano's, Jimmy John's. You may have heard of those, out of Plymouth, Michigan. And then, yeah, it was the food and beverage route. I have the email from 2014 here, emailing my hospitality professor, one of the first hospitality classes that I had with Mike Avella, who was at Luxbar at the time, part of Gibson's restaurant group. Hey, do you have anything available? It's the winter break for DePaul, which is all of December off. You email, you have that full whole time, that whole month away from school. No one's really offering internships for a whole month. So, hey, can I do anything within your restaurant at Lux Bar? Lo and behold, that was a dishwashing position. So here I was on New Year's Eve in 2014, going into 2015, washing dishes. So I've been around the block.
Character building. I mean, I started, my first job in a restaurant was washing dishes, and I still to this day remember the smell coming home, and you just had the essence of dishwashing all over you when you would come home. But it was character building. You got to see a really critical part of the restaurant, and it was a great way to kind of get your foot in the door. And obviously didn't have aspirations of being a dishwasher long term, but to kind of get your foot in the door and earn your chops per se, it was a great place to kind of start.
100%. It was being in the room where something was happening in hospitality in Chicago, and that was what.
Jamie, we got to do the Hamilton clip here, in the room where it happens.
In the room where it happened. Yes, I did watch that 2 weeks ago. So yeah, it is still stuck in my head. But I got to see within something like Gibson's Restaurant Group as a student, with any restaurant group in Chicago that's competitive, that's competing against some of the best, restaurants in the country, all down the street from each other, I got to be seeing that in action as a student. And that's what drove, just that love for it, that excitement about it. And then sort of questioning too, like, is this the route I want within food and beverage? I, had that GM mindset of like, this is a route that I'd love to go down, manager and training. I'd love to, seeing the bar side of operations, the restaurant floor side of the operations was so exciting. And then I was able to transition that over to a position within another, actually, food and beverage program at a large hotel in the River North. And, from there on, it was exciting, but I was still seeing what else could be there. Food and beverage was exciting. I actually transitioned then the concentration to actually hotel management. Since I was doing so much food and beverage, I wanted just to be more tailored to the hotel side, revenue management as well as a concentration, to kind of learn what else was out there. And then lo and behold, when we get to the start of the Evention story, it really came to be with HFTP, the Hospitality, Finance, and Technology Professionals Group. That's the route that I found that was hey, we have a student chapter. It just got started, and we're going to be attending a conference coming this fall. Now I'm a junior. I have dishwashing experience. I just did a food and beverage internship. I really don't know what's going on in the hospitality tech space. I've seen the point of sale system at Lux Bar. I've seen the point of sale system at the hotel I was working at. I don't really know what else is out there besides clocking in and clocking out. And just seeing those that horizon broadened within the HFTP space about what else is out there. You love food and beverage. You're passionate about restaurants. The food and beverage scene at popular hotels with rooftops are the things that really attract me in this industry around the world. And then, well, what can I do for work-wise? What's that next step? And within HFTP, that's where it all connected for me. That's where I found internships. That's where I found, conversations with hospitality tech companies based out of Chicago. And lo and behold, as a senior at the Chicago Athletic Association, the DePaul HFTP chapter, with myself and a few other students, did a speech basically speaking to the hospitality chapter of Chicago, here's what we are as a chapter. Here's what we do. We are ready students. We are not a mold of just hoteliers that want to be front desk agents, that just want to be food and beverage managers or housekeeping supervisors or managers. We're something different.
Mm-hmm.
And just like that, myself and a few other DePaul students were, approached by a few other hospitality tech companies. Here's our card. We'd love to talk about it. And just like that, that was the fall of 2015. And just like, internship started at Evention February 2016, and it's been a marriage ever since.
So I appreciate that you said that, the role of faculty kind of helped in this case. Mike Avella. And Mike Avella still teaches with the School of Hospitality Leadership. He teaches, for those listening, he teaches HSP 200, class focused on customer service. He also teaches beverage operations, which gives you a little overview of purchasing beverage and spirits and things of that nature. So I appreciate that still has an impactful thing. Absolutely. Talk to your professors. Most of the professors are plugged into the industry still. So we know about jobs maybe coming up that before others might. And I think sometimes students are a little bit apprehensive to reach out. So I want to maybe pivot a little bit and not pivot, but follow up on this discussion. So you were heavily involved while you were a student in a organization called HFTP, Hospitality, Finance, and Technology Professionals. And so much so that we actually started a student chapter of this association at DePaul. And I want to just pause for a moment and talk about the importance of these student clubs. We at DePaul and most other hospitality schools will have student clubs focused on a variety of things. We've been very targeted in how we have structured student clubs here. We structure clubs really based on the segment of the industry. So we'll have a food and beverage club. We'll have an event management club. We'll have a chapter of the American Hotel Lodging Association. We'll have a chapter for National Society of Minorities in Hospitality. And you were the president. You were actually one of the leaders of the student club for HFTP. Talk about a little bit the benefit of getting involved in that student club and the skills that you acquired that maybe you wouldn't have learned in the classroom. And if you were sitting here, well, you are sitting here right now talking to current students maybe getting ready to transition into college. Talk a little bit about the importance of getting involved in those co-curricular activities.
These organizations just teach you so much that's outside of a classroom. You're able to connect with industry professionals, whether your hospitality school is based in a city or not, in the spaces like AHLA's annual conference, HFTP's 2 annual events they have across the country, PCMA, National Restaurant Association. Meeting these individuals face to face, going up to a manager, going up to somebody who's a CEO of a hospitality tech company at these events, somebody who curates events at the highest level. They're so accessible in these types of spaces. As a student, you can go up to them. You have this privilege to just ask them, what do you do? In the professional world, you have that nervousness of like, I don't know if I can go up to somebody within that title or that position and what they do. They're not really in my space of hospitality. But as a student, you can do that. You can afford that ability to explore. And whether it's through LinkedIn, do you have 15 minutes to connect within that HFTP or AHLA space? You can afford to do that with what you want to question or ask about. What do you like about your career? What do you love about the event space, the hospitality tech space? What is it? Is that route? What does it entail? What are the challenges that you've faced? You can ask that in those spaces, and it's usually welcomed by those type of professionals. When students reach out, I love being able to take them through what's unique about the HFTP hospitality space within technology. But someone within the front desk, food and beverage world, event world, will want to show you that, will want to take you through that. And
sometimes that meant that you didn't necessarily just stay here in Chicago. I mean, you went to the national conference as the faculty advisor. I escorted you and a couple other students to Seattle. It was paid for by the school. I'm trying to remember what hotel we stayed in.
That was the Hyatt Regency Bellevue.
Hyatt Regency Bellevue. Oh, that's right. It was like right across from Microsoft.
Hmm.
I remember that. Great hotel, great conference, but this was an opportunity that it was kind of like a multi-day field trip, if you will. That
Oh, absolutely.
you brought your suits with you. You got to go to all the same speakers, all the same professional development opportunities, the chance to make connections and grab that business card and find a potential mentor, find potential job and
Hmm.
internship opportunities. As a student, being able to do that, it builds so much confidence in you to be able to then go
100%.
out in the job interview market later on.
Yeah, absolutely. So HFTP, oh, I know we're talking about that a lot, but that's a space where every June, obviously with COVID right now, that's been postponed to a cyber event during via Zoom later this October. But every June there's High Tech, which is the basically the who's who of hospitality technology that is coming through the pipeline for the next hotel room. What's coming up through hospitality tech leaders that do the TVs, the mobile apps, the check, the phone check-in process. These are the companies that are there. And as a student, me and another student, Sean Kelly, actually, the two of us were at High Tech as seniors. We just went up to every booth and asked, what do they do? What is so unique about them? And just ask questions. You have the student badge on, and you're just able to go up to these companies. The title of that person, as a student, wow, that's somebody that has the director of sales, VP of global business development. And you're asking them, what does this company do? Who do you work with? How do you like it? You're able to go up to them and, yeah, you're not a prospect. They're not a big sell, we're not a big
Mm-hmm.
sell for them, but you're going up to them to learn about it. And it's just that confidence building. You're going up to these people and you're just saying, what do you do? What can you offer to the hospitality industry? I know hotels use you, but as a student, what's unique about you? And it's
And
really interesting.
being able to do that in a conference environment makes going to a career fair a piece of cake.
Piece of cake. Yeah,
Piece of cake.
absolutely. Yeah, because
Uh,
then you
so
know what's out there. Yeah.
yeah, so from a cash handling perspective, I want to maybe go back to Evention real quick.
Yeah.
Give the listeners a sense, and I know things are a little bit different now during COVID, but in
Mhm.
general, I mean, I don't think people fully truly appreciate the scale of where your company, which basically handles the management of cash, distribution of gratuities and things, talk about
Yeah.
all the different segments that you could potentially interact with as in your role, but also Evention as a company as a whole.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'll talk about the cash operations side of things first. So cash is still out there. With the world of COVID, I understand we have seen that push to go cashless. But in today's terms, of those big box properties, those properties that operate, attractive rooftops that we all understand and been at pre-COVID, once that business levels return, cash operation and that type of management, is needed. And previously, before COVID and now currently with limited staffing, cash management is something that is done manually. It's a person at the, in the back of the house, part-time or full-time, physically counting out cash, going through envelopes dropped by you at the end of your shift. Me coming in at 4 o'clock, I need change. I'm out of 20s or I'm out of ones. That was somebody in the back of the house, somebody within a flexible accounting role doing that. And that's error prone. Reconciling that at end of day takes a lot of time. And that's where Evention kind of saw it as a first consulting project 15 years ago. Why on earth is this something that's a touch point done manually by somebody? This is now something we've eliminated. We partner basically with a manufacturer now that does basically like an ATM design at like a Bank of America or Chase. You go to an ATM like you do on your normal banking days, where you're going to go get your cash amount. That's something that we now have in the back of the house that we're enabling hotels to use. So when it comes to a front desk agent, food and beverage associate, anyone that's really taking out a bank, our machine is designed for you to take out your till, be able to make change to the machine throughout the day. And then at end of day, once you're done, you're clocking out for the day, that's just a blind drop. You're no longer counting this. There's no envelopes. There's no paper clips. There's no signed forms. You're logging back into the machine just like you would, depositing a check into an ATM or something like that at a PNC or Chase, and you're done for the day. That then gets reconciled. We're interfacing with the point of sale, PMS, spa data. If you guys operate anything else from like a valet service or things like that, anything that's rung up at the hotel, we're then grabbing that and reconciling with what the cash comes in. I mean, we're just taking all these steps out of the hands of the hotel. The reporting is then provided by us the next day. So it's 11:27 where I am. We're sending out a workflow 8 a.m. sharp the first thing the next day with your cash journal, any violations, and all that reporting provided. So,
And you're not just here in the U.S.
smart.
You're a. I mean, this is a global
Yes,
reach for your organization.
over 500 hotels vetted through multiple different hotel corporations. This is a product that, yeah, cash is, depending on where you lie with how much usage of cash you have, essentially it's still there for a lot of those big brands. And we want to make it smarter and easier. I mean, why are you counting cash manually? Why does the reconciliation process take a pad and paper method? And there's no audit trail there. In the accounting world, it's all about, what happened in the past. If you can't show that, and what we've done with a lot of our case studies here is hotels make mistakes, and
Mhm.
there's a till that's missing, there's a house float that's being skimmed, and just like that, it's not a good time.
Sure. So I'm curious for there's individuals listening that maybe are getting ready to graduate. They're in their final year of school, or maybe they've just recently graduated, and here you are going on 5 years out of your degree. How do you and you've been with the same company since, and you're doing very well. But it begs the question: how are you, Chris Contos, continuously developing your skills? What sort of professional development opportunities are you participating in? Whether it's certifications, whether it's
Mhm.
other ways to enhance your skills. You are going back to school to get your graduate degree, which I think is great.
Mhm.
Education doesn't replace work experience, but work experience doesn't replace education. So I applaud you for that. But what are sort of other things are you doing to keep your skills, to develop new skills, but also to remain relevant in today's highly competitive workplace?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different directions this can go down. So you touched on the school aspect. Yes, I'm in a part-time MBA program. So the education side, I wanted to check that box after 3 years of work. I had set that goal to myself where by 2019, I want to be enrolled in a program. But beyond that, there is, I would say, within AHLA, HFTP, and these certifications you see within the event world, hotel world, you should go after those as a student or after you've graduated. Set that goal within the next year to 2 years. That I want this added onto my resume, and I want to make this visible. I can't stress this enough. As a skill, it's something you need to keep up with as a student. Is your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn presence is a must, constantly, keeping up with what your network is doing. That's a major key nowadays. I see Dr. Nick posting all the great job opportunities in the hospitality space in Chicago. Those are really important things to keep up with.
I can't stress this enough. I'm going to just stop you right here. I mean, I
Oh yeah.
can't stress having your LinkedIn profile updated, relevant, and professional. I think some students fall into a trap, and even not students, even people in their late 20s and 30s still use their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as the sole representation of their professional brand. And I think
Mhm.
that is just setting themselves up for potential problems. LinkedIn couldn't be a better resource.
Oh,
I'm not
absolutely.
advocating that you go out and you buy the $600 LinkedIn super
Oh no, you
top
don't.
tier level
You don't
package. I
need
mean,
premium.
just the free
Mhm.
basic package will give you a really good brand image, brand representation. And
Absolutely.
listen, you never know the connections that you make. I was actually looking on LinkedIn yesterday, one of the jobs that I posted, because every time I see a job pop up in my network, I shoot it out for alums or current students that are looking.
Mhm.
But I saw a really interesting post yesterday. Someone said, I'm going to post this job on LinkedIn first because I value the networks that we have here before I post it out to a larger audience. And I thought that was really profound
Mhm.
because, you know, being able to very quickly see where the connections lie. Anybody that tells you that hospitality and tourism is not a small industry, not a small world, has never worked here in this industry.
Mhm.
It might be the largest industry in the service economy, 1 in 10 people working in this industry, but the reality of it is it's still a very, very tight knit community. So being able to go out there and form a network and having that profile be a representation of your brand, I'm so glad you said that, because that is probably one of the best, easy, free things that people can do right now.
It's free.
It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And I still, to this day, even though I'm not actively looking for a job, I still to this day will update my profile and make sure that it's relevant, make sure that it's current. If I see a really interesting new company come into the landscape, I'll follow them.
Mhm.
And every time I'm getting ready to go on a Zoom call or do an interview, one of the
Mhm.
first things I do is I look at the person's profile. It gives me a really good
Oh,
understanding of who they
absolutely.
are.
Yeah. My clients, I keep up via LinkedIn with them all the time because I want to know within the property, have you moved? Oh, congratulations. I see you got a promotion. It's a relationship building tool for me, but also like, looping this back into the student world right now within the hospitality space that's changing each day. LinkedIn has to be your tool for job searches. When your network is posting that we're going to reopen October 1st with our hotel or our event space or our restaurant or later this fall, you're the first to know. And in LinkedIn, it's free. That message that you send to an HR leader, to somebody within the finance or front desk space at that hotel that's reopening this fall or coming back later this year, that message is free for you to send. Do you have 15 minutes? I'm in the Chicago area. I'm a senior. I just graduated. Those ins are right there, and that message is free to send. And it doesn't hurt. Once you get that out there, you get your message out there to somebody and see what happens.
Exactly. So, in addition to LinkedIn, what other sorts of things are you doing to keep your skills relevant or develop new skills?
Yeah, currently for me right now, HFTP offers two different certifications within the organization. We have a hospitality tech certification and a hospitality accounting certification. I'm going to be completing the hospitality tech certification later this fall. So for me, locked up in quarantine during the first few months of this year, obviously, I needed to use my time efficiently.
It's a great
There's no
time to study.
commuting. 100%. Yeah, I had to keep my mind doing something, especially now, and the certification available to students actually within the HFTP space at a discounted rate is definitely one of those things out there that I wanted to add to 2020. I wanted this to be a year that I worked on expanding the network. I kept up with my education, and then in terms of the certification world, something to add to the LinkedIn, to the resume, to myself,
Mm,
grow. This is you got to keep doing that. You don't want to go stale after 4 years of college and then of graduating and not having anything else to add to yourself.
mhm. Well, I think it's interesting because I've talked to a couple people about this recently, and I said, listen, you may be during this time of COVID unemployed, and you're looking for a job. But I can tell you, as a former HR person in hospitality and tourism, and as a former manager and a current manager, one of the questions that I would ask somebody in an interview, kind of coming out of this COVID pandemic, is what did you do during this time to keep yourself relevant and current? Did you just sit on the couch and watch Netflix, sit around and play video games, or did you take the initiative to make sure that for the last 3 months or 6 months that you're staying sharp, even if it's learning a language. It doesn't necessarily have to be specific to hospitality and tourism. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to necessarily be a degree program or a certificate program. Just doing something to develop yourself professionally, I think, is a huge benefit. Learning a new language, picking up a new skill, everything from people taking wine certifications to going to Toastmasters to learn how to be a better public speaker. But ask yourself, what are you doing to show that during the pandemic you didn't just lock yourself in your house and do nothing? I think that's probably a really important thing and a takeaway as we start to come out of this and we start revving the engines back up again.
100%. Those in that space, looking for that job right now, that has to be one of the questions you knock out of the park. Labeling the 2-3 things you can identify, quickly and efficiently in an interview that details the type of growth, the growth orientation that you're set for is so important at this time. Because like you said, when things do rev up, we're going to see, and especially in my space, we're going to see a lot of hotels opening up this fall, reopening after a few months of closures. They're going to want, it's a buyer's market now within the hospitality space. We're going to want the best. We're going to want somebody, because we may have a limited staffing setup. I want a new front office manager. I want someone in food and beverage that can get the job done. And showing that what you've made of yourself these last 6 months is going to be very important.
Well, and to be honest, the area of the industry that you thought you might be going into or that you were working in previously, that might not be relevant when you need to find a job. So being able to say, I'm going to go and maybe venture into another silo or another segment of the industry. I worked for hotels for a while, and maybe I'm going to go dabble in the airlines, or I worked for the airlines, and maybe I'm now going to go into food and beverage, or maybe like you, I worked in food and beverage, and I'm going to head off and maybe go work for a tech company or a new startup. And I think like you did, having geographic flexibility as well. You spent a lot of time in Chicago, but I know the decision to move to New York was not an easy one for you, but you did. You knew that that's where the opportunities were, and you did it. And I applaud you for that. So it's having an open mind when it comes to the careers that you can have in this industry. I think is very, very important for the listeners to consider.
Absolutely. Yeah, the move to New York was that, that next step. Do I have it defined what it is? Not too sure. But in terms of this new space that I'm in New York, yeah, it's exciting. There's a different hospitality buzz. Is it better than Chicago's? I wouldn't say so, but I would say it's something super
Chicago's better.
different than
I'll
Chicago.
say it. I'll say it. Chicago's better.
Oh, no, I would say the different. Yeah, I've definitely noticed some differences where I'm like,
I'm biased, but I can say it.
No, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. It's exciting though. I mean, yeah, you got to keep creating those new different challenges for yourself. I thought New York was one of those, and here we are.
Sure. So, Chris, as we kind of wrap up, I'm always curious, and I'm always interested and kind of the final question that we'll go with here. I'm interested how you, as somebody in their mid-20s, 5 years out of college, working hard, great company, moving up in the organization, a really a great company that's expanding. You mentioned 500 plus, different hotels have your product. How are you keeping a work-life balance? I mean, a lot of people think about hospitality and they're like 24/7, 365 industry, I'm going to have no life. But you, we've known each other for a long time. I know sports are very important to you, as an avid soccer player, physical fitness is very important to you. How are you keeping a work-life balance today and over the last couple of years?
It's a great question. It kind of came from the food and beverage route that I understood where my limits were, where after long weekends doing doubles, that, there was a financial reward doing that, but there was something that had to change that couldn't last forever. And it was something that, I knew I could do this for only so long, and there had to be some changes to this. After the food and beverage routes that I had done within the restaurant and hotel spaces in Chicago, I had that glimpse of a corporate internship position my senior year. I got to see a glimpse of the 9 to 5 experience. Thought that was okay. I still like that. Clocking out feeling after a dinner rush that is, so rewarding. So I had that mix of both, but I really felt that value of time off is important. That flexible day of I will get my work done, and I will be around, my laptop if you need me. kind of mixing and matching, as I am located now in Eastern Standard Time. If my day starts late, I'm going to be catering to a specific time. I'll be catering this morning more to the Eastern Standard Time. And then just kind of being upfront too. What do you value in an interview and with a company culture? Yeah, we're a company that hits 50 to 55 hours a week. Okay, well, what's the financial compensation? What's the time off policy? What do you value for? I mean, obviously with COVID, work from home is now a must. Pre-COVID, that was a really tough question for a lot of companies to address. And I'm somebody who's been working from home since July of last year. And, those are the little things you got to be upfront about too. Where are your values at? I'm somebody that at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., I know I have a hard stop. I schedule a lot of things to make sure I take my mind away from evention to do other things like play soccer, like to do travel on short weekends and stuff like that. That's those are the things I value. So
I'd like to take this opportunity to put a plug in. Go Manchester United. I want to document it official on the podcast.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, no, as a Liverpool supporter, I understand that. But we got our Premier League title, so I'm feeling good for.
I know you guys are doing great. Well, Chris Contos, first and foremost, you are an alum of the School of Hospitality Leadership at DePaul University, which I couldn't be more proud of. But I'm also really proud of the fact that you are a hospitality tech account executive with Evention based in Brooklyn, New York. You've done extremely well after graduation. I'm very proud of you, and I really appreciate you taking some time to be a guest on the Hospitality Spirit today.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. And to all the students, show up, ask your professors what's going on. There's a lot happening, and these hospitality leaders in the education space are really important at this time.
Thanks so much.
I can't keep on losing you.